Over the weekend, a fourth member of the New England Patriots tested positive for COVID-19, postponing the Broncos game by a week. I'm Mariah, Janos, joined by Evan Lazar. Evan, how close was this team to revolting if the game hadn't been pushed back?
Well, I think revolting is a strong word, but I would say that the Patriots right now, and I made this comparison last week, the federal government's sort of like the NFL and the state of Massachusetts is the Patriots right now. I think the Patriots are taking matters into their own hands. Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick, mostly Bill Belichick with the approval of Bob Kraft, is running the show right now for New England. The Patriots are not going to practice. They're not going to play. They're not going to gather inside their facility unless head coach Bill Belichick gives the go-ahead through the various avenues that he has to learn the best that he can about what this virus is doing right now to the Patriots. I think luckily what we've seen, since we're now basically a week more so removed from the Cam Newton positive test, is that this is not an outbreak in New England. It's more like a cluster is what doctors would call it, where a couple of people have caught it and we're on the verge of an outbreak, but we haven't hit full-on Tennessee-style outbreak just yet. So Patriots have done a nice job of containing the spread for the most part. The game in Monday night was forced upon them in Kansas City, certainly, and that was more of the league's doing. After that point, we heard Jason McCourty himself come out and say this last week when we did get to talk to some of the players. Up until that point, the Patriots were really in step with the league. You know, they trusted the league. They trusted the testing. Once the league decided to go ahead with that game on Monday night against Kansas City, despite the positive test from Cam Newton, despite many players like Stephon Gilmore being close contact proximity to Cam Newton, and they still went ahead with the game, I think that the trust went out the window and the Patriots said, now it's on us to govern ourselves, not only to keep everybody safe in terms of making sure we're social distancing and wearing masks and all that kind of stuff, both inside and outside the facility, but more so the decisions moving forward about the games, you know, when we're going to play, when we're going to practice. That has now become a Patriots decision when before it was really supposed to be a league decision.
Today's segment is powered by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. Call 800-CAR-6000 and mention the code BEAT, or go to carshield.com and enter the promo code BEAT for 10% off. That's carshield.com, promo code BEAT. Now, we were just talking about the Patriots kind of losing their trust in the NFL and doing the right thing. Do you think the NFL is pushing its luck here with players and keeping these games scheduled?
Well, I think what they're doing is they're making it clear that the first priority is money, and then the second priority is player, coach, you know, basically team personnel, kind of put an umbrella over all of it, safety. You know, that's really the second priority here. If this first priority was safety, then the Patriots never would have traveled to Kansas City last week. And I think a lot of the Patriots players, I mentioned Jason McCourty already, but a couple of other players have also voiced their opinions on this of why was the incubation period not taken more seriously by the league? You know, we had a positive test in Cam Newton. You know, it takes roughly 4 or 5 days for positive tests to start popping up on these COVID tests. So why did they not take that into consideration and postpone this game? To me, the easiest solution for the league when there's a positive coronavirus, especially with somebody like a Cam Newton, who's your starting quarterback, who's around everybody on the team, the easiest thing to do would be to shut that team down for 10 days, make sure you sniff out all the positive tests in that period, and just say, you're quarantining. This team is quarantining. We're going to postpone these games. We'll push them back to a week 18 or a week 19 or something like that later on in the season, and we'll continue. Instead, the league is trying to push through and just trying to kind of go full speed ahead regardless of that. And what they are doing is they are risking outbreaks, and the Patriots luckily police themselves to the point to avoid an outbreak, but certainly the way the league was handling it, that was what was going to happen if the Patriots didn't pull back. Remember, the Patriots were the ones that closed their facility on Thursday and Friday last week. The league said go ahead and practice, just, you know, wear a mask or wear the Oakley face shield or whatever, but as long as you're distancing on the practice field and all wearing the proper, you know, protective wear, go ahead and practice. And it was the Patriots that were the ones that said no, we're going to sit back and we're going to, you know, close the facility for a couple of more days. So at the end of the day, the league wants to play 256 games in 17 weeks. They don't want a week 18. They don't want a week 19. They don't want to be postponing games. And instead, what they did was they rescheduled 8 different games just to reschedule this one Denver Patriots game. They had to move around 8 different games to make that happen instead of just creating a week 18 at the end of the season. So until the bye weeks are all used up, 18 out of 32 teams right now have already had their bye. So it's not going to be a situation where they're going to be able to use the byes for much longer. But as long as the byes are still existent, they're going to continue to swap out games from the bye weeks and move forward like this instead of prolonging the season, which is the last resort and really something that I think is on the table, but not actually on the table for the league office.
For all of our Patriots coverage, head over to clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Patriots Press Pass.